Okay, hey you guys, it's Brooke and I'm a teacher at Still Life Ceramics, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make Kurinuki cups. So I'm going to hop up on my chair so that you can see my hands. And to start, I'm just going to talk a little bit about how I have my workspace set up, the tools I'm going to be using, and then we can go ahead and jump in and start making our cups. So to start, I have a piece of canvas laid down over the table that I'm working on. The table is wood underneath, so I definitely want to have something, whether that's a piece of fabric, whether that's newspaper, whether that's canvas, whatever that is, so that my clay does not stick to the surface that I'm working on. I also have a slab mat here. You don't necessarily need that. Again, if you have something like a bat or canvas or newspaper, whatever, to work on, you can just use that. And then tool-wise, what I have this medium-sized loop tool, the one with the rounded end and then the one with kind of this squarish triangular end. I have a small one in case I want to do any kind of more defined decorative carving. And then I just have a metal rib, and then I have a little piece of coral from South Carolina that I'm going to use for texture. So to start, I am starting with, I want to say this is about 3 pounds of clay. It's pretty heavy. I'm not super sure because I don't have a scale, so I'm kind of just eyeballing it. No, it doesn't look that big, but it's pretty heavy. So I want to say maybe it's only like 2.5 pounds. But again, you want to start with a fairly large piece of clay. The bigger your cup, the more clay you want to start with, because what a Kurinuki cup is a piece of clay that you're going to carve out the center to make your cup. So you start out with the form that you want. So if you want your cup to be a little more squat, if you want it to be really tall and narrow, you're gonna do that before you actually start carving. So I just have a piece of wedge clay that I've gotten into this kind of cylinder shape that then I'm gonna carve the inside out and have my cup form. So I have a few examples that I've made. Here's a little one. You can kind of see the texture on the outside and then the little foot that was carved into the bottom. So really simple, really cute and small. And then here's another one that I've done, just really natural shape. The inside was carved out, the outside started, I don't know, in this kind of form. So before I start, I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of texture onto the outside of my piece. You can go back in afterwards and add some more, but I just like to start with the texture. I take this metal rib and I'm just gonna go in and really roughly create some texture. You can kind of see the texture that I'm going for. So I'm gonna do that with the metal rib. And then I'm also gonna go in with this piece of coral that I have and just kind of use this. It's one of those little round ones. And just stick it in to create even more texture. And then what I'll probably do is go back over with my metal rib just to kind of like make it all blend together. But you can kind of just see how I'm sticking this piece of coral in and starting to create some texture on the outside of my cup. And then, like I said, after I stick this in a little bit more, I'll go back with my metal rib, and any of these parts just kind of like make the texture blend a little bit better. So why I really like these cups is that they are a really natural approach to making a cup kind of form. They're really organic, and I just think it's really fun being able to, start with a shape and be able to carve out and make something. So this is what I'm working with. I've got the texture that I want in there, and I'm gonna go ahead and use my loop tool and start by making a circle on the top. And this is gonna be how I control the thickness of my wall. So if you're just starting out and you've not done this, I do suggest erring on a little bit of the thicker side just when you're first drawing this circle. That way you do have some space to carve out and you're not accidentally carving through the walls and getting little thin spots in the walls, having holes, that kind of thing. So once you have that round kind of circular shape cut out, then what I like to do is I just go in with that rounded edge and start to roughly carve out the center. And keep in mind, you're working with really fresh, kind of wet clay, so don't get rid of any of these pieces. You can just wedge them and use them for another cup after. Don't throw them away. Yeah, so I'm just going in, and like I said, if you've not done this before, work fairly slowly. It's really easy to get crazy and carve through the walls. And you just want to have your hand supporting your clay as you carve. That way you're not either warping the shape, but also so that you can tell how thick your walls are and how much more you can carve in. So, just going in. And I do suggest for the walls, a good method is just taking your tool and carving up the side like this. Makes it a little bit easier to control how much you're carving off. And so you can see I'm not nearly close to being done. Okay, and you see it's kind of shadowy in there. I'm about halfway down. Also, you do want to consider whether or not you want to carve out a little foot. If you do, you don't want to carve too far and get too deep, just because you do want to save room to flip your piece over and carve out the bottom down there. So I'm going to keep carving. And again, just be careful you don't carve in too much and make any holes in your walls. See, I was really close there. And just kind of rotating your cup. Okay, so I have carved in, and I'm just going to even my walls out a little bit, just really carefully, going back in and trying to thin the walls out. You do want to make sure that your walls and your base aren't too thick. If they are, they can crack when they dry. It's also just not good for you to have too thick of walls when you're firing a piece. So I've kind of carved out a little bit too much, a tiny hole. I'm just going to go back in and add some clay to save myself later. Okay, so I'm just going in and refining the walls a little bit more. And you can kind of go in and smooth things out with your fingers. Really careful to not carve too thin. Okay, so my walls are looking good. And I'm gonna go ahead and flip my cup over. And you can see my walls are still pretty thick, but I'm gonna go ahead and flip it over and carve out a little bit of a foot. So this isn't necessary, it's purely up to you whether or not you wanna do that. I approach it the same way that I do the top, just starting by drawing out a rough circle. And then once I've got that circle, I'm able to go back in and carve out a little foot. Also, while my piece is upside down and I'm carving the foot out, what I like to do is so that this cup isn't so straight up and down on the walls, I will take my metal rib and either use it to angle this part of my cup, or I'll take my angled end of my loop tool and just kind of carve out a little bit in here like this to make a more refined foot. So just gonna do like this. You can kind of see how I'm making a little more of a defined foot. And then what I'll do from here is go back in with the metal rib and just smooth that down. Perfect. So once I've hit this stage, I didn't carve in a foot that's too deep. I am just gonna flip it back over and see if there's a little bit more from the bottom that I can just roughly carve. And then I'm gonna show you all what I like to do once the piece is leather hard. So in theory, I will carve this all out so that my walls are nice and as even as possible before I let it get leather hard. I'm just gonna go back in, kind of clean the lip of my cup up. And then from here what I'll do, I'll just kind of smooth things out with my finger just so that things aren't too sharp if they do start to dry out. And I'll go over the outside one more time just to make sure I didn't lose any texture while I was working. Let's see. And just be really careful not to put too much pressure on your walls. So this is kind of what my cup looks like right now. And in theory, what I would do then would be put this on a bat or on a surface where I'm not going to move it around, cover it in a little bit of plastic, and let it dry out slowly to leather hard. So honestly, that would probably take about a day. So I have a cup here that's about leather hard. It's a little bit softer. So I'm going to move this one. And then in theory, if this is leather hard, which it basically is, I just go back in with either the smaller ribbon tool or this loop tool, and I just do any cleanup, kind of taking off a little bit more of the walls. Again, it is a little bit soft, it's not quite leather hard. So then I go back in, and it just gives me a little bit more control while the clay isn't super soft, to go in and really refine the inside of my cup. So you can see I'm not taking off huge chunks. I'm really just cleaning it up. Going back in, cleaning up, the lip of my cup. Finger, smooth this out, and then after this, I again would just cover it in plastic, let it dry out slowly, and that is how you make a Kurinuki cup. I'll do a little zoom in so you can see the texture. It's a shame it's so shadowy, and there's a little foot down there. So yeah, that's how you make a cup. And thank you so much, and definitely keep watching our YouTube, keep checking out our Instagram. We have a lot of really cool stuff coming up for you guys, and we hope you are being creative at home and staying safe. Bye, you guys.